Welcome, low ego action heroes, all of you. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. We do projects, training, and consulting. Check us out. And welcome to our usual Friday show. This is Practicing Critical Thinking. This is where you have sent me stuff, which you can do through deltacx.com/links. And I take a look at it and break it into a zillion pieces, and we all comment on it and tear it apart and practice our critical thinking. So of course, before we get started, quick thanks to the people who are donating to the channel over on YouTube. Please subscribe there. Donating is optional, but always appreciated. And yeah, thanks to everybody doing that. Optional, but appreciated. All right, so I'm going to flip over to my screen and let's see what people sent this week. We've got a lot of stuff. I can't stay longer than an hour today, but hopefully we'll get through all of it. And I want to hear your comments and questions as we go. So let's see if this button will do it. Yes, okay, there's me in the chat room and the optional tip jar and my screen in private mode. So here we go. So someone downloaded and sent me a TikTok video. Very kind of you. I don't use TikTok, so if you want to send me a TikTok, you do have to download it and send it to me. And this was this person saying, nothing, hi Manuel, nothing makes you more hated than skipping corporate small talk. And then some other dude kind of responded to that, and he was saying that, yeah, small talk is basically what's going to get you a promotion, and that people who get promoted are not the best people for the job. They're the people with like the best relationships with people and the people who are kissing ass. And as usual, my question here is, well, now what do I do? I mean, if I'm not an ass-kissing person, what am I supposed to do about that? I don't want to become an ass-kissing person. Is this always true? Is this sometimes true? I would imagine it's sometimes true. Is it always true? Hopefully not. I think you should all be who you are, and sometimes people will get promotions they don't deserve, and sometimes people will get promotions they do deserve, but I don't want anybody to feel like they have to make small talk or all these other things. We're eventually going to figure out promoting people who deserve the job and doing our work remotely without people feeling like they have to be in the office and make small talk if that's not something they like to do. So not too sure what the action item is here, because I'm not going to tell all of you to start kissing people's asses. So, you know, you play it how you want, and it is what it is. Udipta, is it really like that? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes. Hello, watching from the UK. Let's just jump to the next one, because not much I can do about that. Even if this is happening a lot of times, I'm not going to tell you all to kiss asses. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I mean, in the old days, if you really want to talk about that, you know, and in some places today, but certainly in the old days, at least in America, and I mean, now it's illegal, you know, you weren't going to get anywhere unless you had sex with your boss or whatever the stupid thing was. You know, it was all sexual harassment, not all, but many people experienced sexual harassment or other things, and supposedly you weren't going to be able to get anywhere if you didn't play that game. I really hope we're past that. I don't want anyone to play that game. Yeah, right, Elena? Yeah, F that, everybody says. I agree. All right, next one. Someone sent me this, which says Future London Academy Courses Speakers Journal. Okay, so I'm assuming this is not a conference. I'm assuming this is a course. Design Thinking and Innovation. Keynote presentations, case studies, roundtable discussions, and visit to top companies who adopted a human-centered approach. Cool, bro, but human-centered approaches and design thinking aren't necessarily the same thing. So do you mean both? Do you mean one? Not clear. What will you learn? Methods and processes companies use to create new Hi, Molly. How to scale design thinking in an organization. Okay, so we really mean design thinking, and we wrote human-centered, but we probably don't really mean it. You can come in March 2024, so make sure you are planning well ahead, but please pay us now, £3,200. Was that a room full of white people? Is that the best you could do? Okay. Yeah, you know, the thing that I always find interesting about this stuff is it's always funny, like, the more important the topic is, it seems like the less time we spend on it. It's this weird trend right now. Hi, Elliot. Elliot, I thought you were busy. It's a weird trend right now. It's like the more important something is, the less time we're going to spend on it. We want to innovate. Okay, how does a company like Apple innovate? Well, first of all, they kind of don't, but they pretend they do. But let's say they are innovating. They spend $22 billion a year on R&D. They don't rush out MVPs. If they're doing design thinking, we can't tell. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, Lovro. 2024. Yeah, plan now. Mark your calendar. And so for some reason, like, I would think if you were going to learn how to make your company more innovative, first of all, the answer is bring back the R&D department. And then the second answer would be that should take longer than a week. And that should take that should be a week of a lot more than you'll hear some speeches and hear some case studies. You really got to get into it with people and really tell them what to do and how, because as we talked about on episode 108, so much of design thinking is very surface and fluffy and, ooh, you're going to be innovative, you're going to do this, it's going to be this. And then they never really say like what to do, or their what to do is also extremely surface. So I'm sure someone sent this to me for the comedy, but I suggest everybody pass on this. This would not be something that I would recommend. This seems like a lot of money to spend for something that's, you know, if you really want to learn about design thinking, I'm sure there's a couple of YouTube videos out there from maybe a couple of people who like design thinking and want to tell you why, and that'll cost you nothing. Okay, this appears to be a job someone sent me. Principal UX designer. Okay, so principal UX designer. So I didn't look at this yet. So typically principal is 7 years or more of experience, sometimes even more than 7. Because it's UX designer, I'm going to imagine that there's information architecture, interaction design, prototyping. Maybe they're going to expand beyond that a little bit and maybe want some testing or maybe want some UI design. So let's see what it says. 7+ years. Okay, that's actually appropriate to the title. Congratulations. 2+ years in people management. Okay, so that's interesting. So in America, if you are at a principal level, you usually don't want to be a people manager. You just want to be in the work. And so people at principal or below have not managed people. Outside of North America, I've noticed that sometimes people with a lead level title are given direct reports, even though they are still technically not managers. They are, as I always say, worker bees, which I know isn't the nicest term. So this is not America. I mean, it says Singapore here. So, you know, Americans might look at this and go, what? You know, if I'm a leader or principal, I haven't been managing people. But outside of America, I've noticed a lot more jobs that are lead and principal do manage some people. So that looks weird, but it's not weird. At least 2 years of experience in fintech, fair enough. Experience designing products for APAC users, fair enough. Design research, design strategy, and facilitation, mostly fair. I know when I see facilitation, design thinking might be coming later in the list, since facilitation often relates to workshops, and sometimes workshops can be okay, but if it's really work by workshop, then, you know, you may not want the job. Understanding material design and atomic design. Okay, so that hints at UI design, which I'm not totally surprised at. Working with design systems and Figma. Again, that's more UI, but I'm not surprised that they're combining these. It hasn't said research, so at least you're going to just stay on the design side, I think. Good portfolio. You should have an Asian language. Sell design ideas, willingness to travel. This doesn't look that bad. I mean, it's just your typical, I would have said UX UI. This says a UI UX job. I'm not applying for it. I'm not a designer, and I don't work on that kind of stuff. But I think in general, this is a mostly fair job description, other than I don't like to combine UX and UI. I like to keep them separate. It says broad range of skills, including research, but I can really tell that there's not going to be a lot of research in your job, maybe not even a lot of research on the team. Hard to say. It doesn't say where you're going to get your information from, but design tools and methodologies. It's funny that they think that a persona is some sort of design tool. Yeah. So you can tell a little bit they kind of don't know what this is. And it's really up to you if you want to take that chance in that type of environment. All right. Next, this is a LinkedIn post from someone named Robert Slaughter, who I don't think I know. And it says, good example that has come up on almost every team and every product I've worked on that stresses the difference between user-centered design and user-driven design. Oh, here we go. This is, I don't know if he made up user-driven design, but it sounds like we're about to pee on something and mark our territory and come up with another name for things that we really didn't need. Let's see. Adding a feature that automates change management or other notifications through email or chat ops. What a person will say is, it would be great if I got an email or chat notification every time blank happened. Everyone thinks that they want this, user-driven, but once they have it, it gets treated like spam, user-centric. Okay, so I'm already a little bit lost. I don't know if anybody else is. Now, I can agree with, or at least see the point of, everyone thinks they want this, but once they have it, these emails are overwhelming or feel like spam or whatever. But I don't see how either of those is user-driven or user-centric. Let's see what else he says. Maybe he'll make sense of this, because it sounds like he's trying to explain to you the difference between the two, but I don't feel like that's clear yet, so that's tough. Build amazing products that people love. Don't just ask people to prioritize your backlog. Great way to build a bloated solution that does everything a person asks for but doesn't solve their problems or make their lives better. User-centric versus user-driven. You're talking to your users, know the difference. I don't know. He got a lot of love for it. But, you know what I'm going to say. Meaningful, actionable, helpful. What's going on here? What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? What should I do more of? What should I do less of? Is it really just the difference in the questions we ask people? Does that really, maybe data-driven is their point? I don't know. It sounds like bad research versus good research is their point. And again, I can agree with that, but I don't see how one is user-driven and one is user-centered. And yeah, even Molly's giving us the what face? I don't get it. I think there's an okay point in there somewhere, but I think especially if we want to help people differentiate between two things, they need very different names. So to try to say one is user-driven, because that sounds good. We say things like data-driven stuff and evidence-driven. So if you call something user-driven, I'm going to think it's pretty good. If he made this up, he probably needs a different word for it. Udipta says, I guess it's what users say they do versus what they actually do, rebranded. Yeah, which none of us needed. Nobody needed that. Yeah, so, half a dog there. Sorry, dog, but for, kind of having a good point somewhere in there, but using terms so confusing that I think it's preaching to the choir. Like, I'm not sure a non-person's going to look at this and go, oh, well, yeah, I'm user-driven. No, you're not even user-driven. If you're asking bad questions, I wouldn't call you user-driven. Madalena says, it's reassuring to hear native English speakers be confused about this. I genuinely thought that perhaps I didn't get the subtleties between user-centered and user-driven. I don't either. And again, especially because we have terms like data-driven and evidence-driven, and we think of these as good things that we want to be. So I'm thinking, yeah, user-driven. Let's be like user-driven, user-centered, customer-centric. These sound good to me. And then he's saying like, no, you don't want to be that. So if you're going to name something, be careful. Someone who clearly hates me sent me this video. Wow. I want 6 minutes of my life back. I'm not sure I made it through all 6 minutes. I am definitely not the target audience for this person, especially since I'm probably twice her age. And of course, you know, it's got the usual clickbait title. Let's just say that right now. Why I'll always have a job and how anyone can. Now, of course, I don't recommend this this person, and I'm not too sure what her thing is. That's the clickbaitiest title I've seen in a while. Yeah, and if you can see what her other videos are, they're kind of strange. You know, social media is creating an empty generation, says the girl with 164,000 views, and 6 tips to stop procrastinating, and dating rule I live by, and I went to Harvard, which always cracks me up because I rejected Harvard. I checked out Harvard when I was looking at colleges. And I was like, wow, I'm not going to get a good education here. And I didn't even apply. I was like, this looks like garbage. I toured it. I talked to some people. And I was like, wow, I don't even want to be here. So, you know, I'm not impressed by a Harvard degree. No offense to anyone who went to Harvard. I know it's prestigious and maybe you enjoyed it, but didn't meet my standards. So, you know, there you go. So in general, her premise appeared to be, from the 5 or so minutes that I made it through, you have a lot of skills and you're getting better at these skills every day. And these are the skills that you're naturally doing. You know, if you tweet all day, you're an expert tweeter. Maybe you can turn that into a job. If you sleep a lot, maybe you're an expert sleeper, though she wasn't too clear on what job that might qualify you for. And her whole point seemed to be, you're just doing things all day, all the time anyway, and maybe you can turn these into a job. Oh, and yeah, and then she was like, I've got YouTube as a source of income, you know? And I'm thinking, yeah, wouldn't that be nice, says the woman who is shadow banned to the young, pretty person with 188,000 subscribers. Elena says 10 hours to become an expert. Yeah. What, is that one of her videos? How to multiply. Learning a foreign language. I quit waking up at 5 a.m. How to get into the Ivy League, which is very difficult. I can't imagine what she's going to say. How to know when to quit your job. Oh, that's somebody else. I am moving. It sounds like this is just her personal diary and we're all just supposed to follow along. So not interested, not sure who sent this to me or why you were watching this. Not sure if she has a video on it. I've seen that number thrown around a lot as the benchmark for expertise. Yeah, that's true. 10,000 hours. We've all seen that, but whatever. Evidently, you could have a YouTube channel and, you know, you then have a lot of things under your belt and a good opportunity could come your way. And one thing I noticed that was super liberating: how to make money out of nothing. Yes, I think you probably are. Take notes like a Harvard student. Oof. Pass. So I'm not too sure who sent this to me or why, but I would like those 5 minutes back. All right, next is a Reddit on OKRs when in discovery phase. Hey all, currently working on OKRs for Q2. Would love to hear your thoughts on how you deal with defining OKRs when the problem space is not yet fully explored and a solution doesn't exist. Okay, so far this sounds like we have no idea what we're doing or what we're building or who it'll be for, but we're supposed to have goals and numbers. That sounds a little bit impossible, that you don't even have a problem or a solution. You have a hypothesis that a feature could improve user engagement. For what solution? So you'll do some discovery work, ideation workshops, shit. Competitor analysis, shit. UX mockups, what? Data analysis, user research. User research first, person. How do you go about defining OKRs for that? Since key results should be quantitative, not activity-based, I'm struggling. Okay, what did someone say? I would advise you to test your OKRs with a pattern I coach folks on. So what, who cares? If each KR can be stressed by those two questions, you can negotiate why they are important, why more user insight is important. This person isn't sure user insight is important? What? Why is insight important as an objective? I'm not being a troll. Well, I don't think you're a troll, but I'm not too sure what's up with that. I mean, I think everybody's missed the point here. If this person has no problem and no solution, he or she or they, or another pronoun should not be trying to create OKRs. When you are trying to create OKRs or KPIs or metrics that you're going to measure, these are supposed to be success towards some sort of goal. Now, if the goal for Q2 is figure out the problem space, then you could have OKRs around exploring the problem space. Hey, we did this, I have an OKR of doing, of interviewing 30 people. Like I can't tell what this person's trying to do, so I don't even know how to write the OKRs around it. They're talking about a feature improving user engagement. If we have no problem space and we have no solution, why do we think a feature is going to make people engage more with something that doesn't exist? So I would be advising this person that I think they're jumping ahead too much. My question would be, what are you trying to get done in Q2? Because OKRs are just numeric representations of goals. And so what is your goal for Q2? Is it to explore the problem space? Is it to explore the problem space and start working on your solution? Is it to skip the problem space and just play with solutions? I don't know, but then you can create OKRs around them. So I feel like this person didn't get some good advice unless somebody down here was like, what's your goal? This person said, why do you need OKRs for discovery? Okay. Yeah. So, what? You can't define OKRs without knowing your goal. Then the OKRs are how do I know I've achieved that goal? Weird. Moving on. Oh, user interviews. How to build a strong UX research portfolio with examples. November 2021. Eniola. Not sure if I know Eniola. Okay, so portfolios. Did we see this one before? Your research process and toolbox, how you collaborate with stakeholders, decisions you made, and why, outcomes of your work impacted the organization, what you do differently. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I think you could do something similar for design, though it wouldn't necessarily be your research process. It might be your design process, how you collaborated, decisions you've made, outcomes, impact, what you would do. That sounds like a good portfolio thing. yeah, I'm not going to necessarily comment on any of the layout or the format. Some of these are better than others, but so I'm not too sure what the person who sent this wanted me to look at. But yeah, I would probably agree with this. It's not a bad, I don't want to say framework, but I guess like set of guidelines to go by, and hopefully this person expands on it further in the article so that you really know what to do. All right, moving on. Okay, so the next 4 came with commentary, so we're going to have to read the commentary. Sometimes I just get links with no commentary. That was the first set. Now we've got commentary. Let's look at the first one. The first question was, it goes with the Samuel one. Okay, so the Samuel one says, do you agree with this? Is there really a way to avoid being the target of layoffs? Okay, super question. Let's consider it answered and cross it off the list. Let's take a look. Samuel, who I don't think I know, says, I was laid off this week. Technically, I was furloughed for 6 months, but how is that not the same thing? Here's the thing, I'll be fine. I saw it coming and I had prepared for it in advance, but I want to talk to all of you because I've seen people caught off guard by their own layoffs. This was from about a week ago and it got a few hundred likes, so I guess it floated around a little bit. Okay, number 1, no job is guaranteed to be forever. Sure, that's true. You could work at a job your entire life, but of course there's a good chance that you won't. So yes, true. 2, there are usually signs. Is the company cutting back on spending, taking longer to approve expenses, hitting their quarterly goals, making massive changes to the structure of the company, or are they growing too fast without a plan? Look for the signs and stay diligent. Can't disagree there, though I know that most of those signs are not always visible to the workers. The workers and the staff, hi I-10, the workers and the staff typically may not necessarily notice these things until they hit like, hey, we're not putting potato chips in the kitchen anymore. And you're like, oh my God, we're cutting potato chips? I've actually worked in that environment. I was like, we're cutting potato chips? I better start applying. Bye, Madalena. Have a great weekend. So yeah, just remember that he's not wrong for number 2, but it might not be easy for you to see based on your vantage point. 3, sometimes there are no warning signs. You can still be prepared. It's about preparation, consistency, and reflection. Now, usually I tell people the best way to prepare for being laid off or unemployed is to have a savings account and to be smart about your money and to be putting money away. And as you're making money, don't spend it frivolously. Yes, enjoy life, buy a couple of nice things, but then stop buying some nice things and put some money away. I think you should always have 6 months of life expenses in savings if possible, if not more. That's hard for a lot of people because they're often not paid enough to put anything away in savings. So I'm not judging anybody who's in that position. But certainly if you can do that or put anything away in savings, it helps you be prepared for these times. But it sounds like based on the comment we got, he's going to tell you how to never be laid off. In fact, if we look at his LinkedIn now, we should see he's already got a new job. But let's see. While I'm employed, I keep track of the work I'm doing, journal of the problems I'm solving, tools, skills, success, and failures, and keeping examples where allowed. Okay, so this tells me, and I don't know what area he works in, because when you're private browser, it doesn't tell you. So it sounds like he is preparing to build his portfolio or case studies or work samples by making sure that as he does work, he has notes on all these things so he can build or update that portfolio or case studies later. I agree with that. That's advice I've given people as well, so I would agree there. Every 2 months, I update my resume with this information. I redefine my role, the scope of my work, and I make plans to update my portfolio with new projects. If you do it regularly, it takes an hour. If you wait 5 years, it's going to take you days. I think I've said that. Yeah. So I agree. I don't necessarily say it has to be every 2 months, but you do have to be ready to make those updates. And I do believe in updating your portfolio, even if it's not a page that you publish yet. Behind the scenes, have a draft of that page for your website or for your PDF. Yeah, if you do it as you go, it's going to be much easier. You won't have to come to it in 6 months and go, what was I doing that day and why did I make that decision? I grow my network. I stay in contact with recruiters. I send them referrals. I have a list of recruiters I keep updating who I consider the best. That's what I used to do in San Francisco, and it worked. I've worked with a handful of amazing recruiters. I tag them in posts. Open to work is always on, even when I'm not looking. And that's how you land on your feet. I reached out to my network and I said, I got laid off. What do you have for me? Within a day, I had 8 opportunities. Will I have a job next week? Probably not, but I'll have one before being unemployed becomes a problem, and I'll be able to enjoy this unexpected time without panicking, which means he's also, to me, hinting that he's got a little money in the bank, and that way he can go some weeks or some months and pay his bills and not have to worry about it, and he feels confident. And I felt that way before I moved to Italy because I had no problem continuously getting a job in the San Francisco Bay Area. Once I moved here, nobody knew what to do with me. So good luck to him. I don't think his advice is bad. What was the question again? Does anybody remember? Oh, I think the question was, can you avoid being laid off? Yeah, and I don't think he's told you you can avoid being laid off. He's telling you how to be prepared to all of a sudden have no job and to all of a sudden have to start a job search and be interviewing, because he's saying if you haven't been working on your resume and your portfolio, now that mountain falls on you. And if you don't have some savings, which he didn't mention, but I hear it kind of implied, then you're going to be in a panic or desperation mode, which makes everything harder. So I don't think you can avoid being laid off when a company is cutting people. But I do agree with him that you can be better prepared for it than some people are. I think that's all he's saying, and I think I agree. I don't think he's saying that if you do these things, you won't get laid off next time. I don't hear that at all. So thanks to the person who sent this in. Next one. Okay, this had a long comment. Here we go. Here's an example of a post that I interpret as being fallacious. The post starts with the following statement. Remember that deadlines are artificial and arbitrary. Yes, they're artificial. Deadlines should be set by taking into account the extent of the project. What do you think? All right, so I've got that one open, and that's this one. Bonnie Dilber, I don't know. Never heard of her. Just remember that deadlines are artificial and arbitrary. Unless you're an emergency responder or a medical professional, your work isn't life or death. Things will be just fine if you don't respond to that message tomorrow. Close Slack, turn off notifications, enjoy your day off, and drop your Labor Day sales or shows below. Sure, because it gets you engagement. What does everybody notice about this? Before I say anything, write something in the chat for the, 20 or so people watching live. What do you notice about this? Practice your critical thinking. Tell me what you see, and, tell me about what this post says to you and anything you notice. I know we'll have to wait a minute or so because we have a little delay and then people are typing. I10 says, it seems like it's about days off, to be honest. Not an everyday situation. Okay, I noticed that too. It first sounded like it was going to be general advice about deadlines, and then it ended up, you're going to have a day off, so don't do work on your day off. There are a couple of other things I noticed. Anything anybody wants to add before I jump in on it? Go for it. All ideas welcome. Melanie says the title is very misleading. Yeah, if you think of her first sentence as a title, it definitely is. Yeah, Janice says maybe it's work-life balance advice. Yeah, I think it is some work-life balance advice, and Melanie's right as well, because it starts with, and let's put up our official graphic, of course, clickbait. Deadlines are artificial and arbitrary. So I think what I notice about this, and you can certainly disagree, is that if we've got 4 sentences in this post, and they all seem to be completely different posts. They seem completely, almost unrelated to me. Our deadlines are artificial and arbitrary. That seems to be one thought. Now, you would expect the next sentence to maybe support that, but she says, your work isn't life or death. You can respond to a message tomorrow. Well, hold on. That's got nothing to do with deadlines. If you have a deadline today, you probably do need to respond to that message. I don't think if you have a deadline today, you can say, but Bonnie said deadlines are artificial and arbitrary, so I'll check your message tomorrow. What? So yeah, I do think it's some sort of like, Melanie says, definitely clickbait to evoke an emotional response. Yeah, and I think ultimately it's bad advice, because if your manager says to you, hey, we need this stuff and we need it by the end of Thursday, you can't show up on Thursday wearing a bikini and carrying a beach umbrella and say, deadlines are artificial and arbitrary, dude. You know, you can't do that. You can't invent your own deadlines. You can't treat them as artificial and arbitrary. Are they sometimes artificial and arbitrary? Sure. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're weird. Sometimes they're flexible. Sometimes they're not flexible. You have to understand through speaking to other humans or writing to other humans or communicating with other humans. What are your deadlines? What's expected of you? And is there any flexibility in this? I don't know what Bonnie works in or as. I'm going to guess marketing, but I10 says crying during performance reviews. Janice says non sequitur. Yeah, exactly. Your performance reviews like, hey, you missed all your deadlines. But deadlines are artificial and arbitrary. So yeah, I think that while the advice of, hey, it's Labor Day in America, it's a day off, don't do work on your day off, just get off your computer, don't look at any notifications on your phone, go have a day off. I think that's good advice. But I don't think I want to tell anybody that deadlines are artificial and arbitrary, because what logically follows after that is not good advice, which is what? Ignore them? Assume they're flexible? So that probably needs a little bit more precise writing for her to have said what she probably meant. But ultimately, everybody knows Labor Day is an American holiday when everybody gets it off. So hopefully your deadlines were constructed with everybody having a day off in mind. So what's this about? Melanie says, sure, for most of us, a deadline isn't a life or death situation, but blowing off deadlines has consequences. Very true. Okay, we've got 2 more, and they came with comments, so let's take a look at the next one. This one, oh no, we're looking at the next one first. Okay, so this one was an article, and it says, do you think we're reading too much into stuff sometimes and creating problems out of nothing in the name of being inclusive? I had a tough time reading that sentence, because as soon as I read it, my question to myself was, is this gaslighting? Is this question gaslighting? So I want all of you to help me out on this one, and let's take a look at what the article is, so you can get some context. The article is from a company in Canada called Indigenous Corporate Training, and evidently they do corporate training to help people adjust languages and policies and other things to better understand and work with Indigenous peoples who are like in America, we might say Native Americans. In Canada, it's Indigenous peoples. And they're talking about some of the language that we say that we shouldn't say anymore because it's insensitive to natives and indigenous peoples. And so their examples include bury the hatchet. It includes stereotypes of First Nations and indigenous peoples. Scalping, savage, the natives are restless, and some other things. So it's an example of some of the language we shouldn't use anymore because of these historical issues. Now, if you're going to ask, let's go back. Elena says, my immediate response is, what's wrong with being purposefully inclusive? Yes. So if we go back to the question, do you think we're reading too much into stuff and creating problems out of nothing in the name of being inclusive? That sounds insensitive to me. I'm saying that to the person who asked the question, and these come in anonymously, so I don't know who this was. But your question sounds anonymous. Sounds insensitive, and it's anonymous. It sounds like, I wonder if it's hashtag privilege. I don't know if a white male wrote this, but I would say if you're not a white male and you've been on the shit end of stereotypical language and colonial language and insensitive language, sure, maybe you've decided that that doesn't bother you, but it might bother your community. It might send the wrong messages about your community to people. We have to think bigger than whether or not I'm bothered by something. We think about people because we are human-centered, and we're not the only human at the center. So I would probably like to respond more to the person's question than the actual article, because the article seems fine. The article is Indigenous and First Nations people saying, hey, there's a handful and probably more phrases that we use from time to time that are insensitive and shouldn't be there. And of course, as a blog post that could help them get some SEO, maybe they get some training out of it. Sure, it's marketing and whatever, but they're not wrong. So are we reading too much into stuff? Not when the people we're talking about are writing a blog post saying, stop saying these things. Then it's not up to whether you're reading into something or not. It's not up to whether you think it's a problem out of nothing. You go and tell those First Nations people that this is a problem out of nothing. You go tell them that. I will stand there and watch. You go tell them that. You let me know how it goes. You show up there with your hashtag empathy, and you go tell these First Nations people that they're just making problems out of nothing. Am I the only person here who's struggling with the question, the way the question was asked? Just me? I know we're delayed usually 20 to 40 seconds, so you might be responding to me and I just don't know yet. But I am never going to tell a marginalized or systematically oppressed person that they're reading too much into language and creating problems out of nothing, and just trying to what? Throw up some sort of flag about being inclusive? No. We've been oppressing and marginalizing these people for thousands of years. This didn't start last week. This didn't start when they wrote the blog post in August. Thousands of years. We have thousands of years of treatment of peoples all over the world to be undoing. And some of that goes with language. Some of that goes with behavior, action, choices, priorities, work policies, personal stuff. So, goodbye. Faye, no, I agree. Seems like it's coming from someone who doesn't understand privilege. Yeah. Melanie says language is important. It's a reflection of our culture, of how people think and relate to one another. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And in many, if not all of these cases, words are meant to hurt. Words are meant to set people up to be seen a certain way. I remember when I lived in New Mexico, there was a famous statue in like the middle of town that had been defaced at some point. And the statue said, like, referred to the Native Americans as savages. And finally someone had gone and like chiseled that off the thing. Like, didn't Microsoft get in trouble many years ago because it suggested savages as a synonym for Indians or something like that? Like, that was a really long time ago. Elena says, this is still happening. It's not ancient history. It's current and still relevant. Molly says 100. Janice says, hopefully the person who submitted it can self-reflect on their perspective of this. Janice is one of the coolest heads we know, everybody, and listen to her. Yes, I think this person should self-reflect, possibly about their own privilege or their own perceptions. So there's that. Okay, and the last one, which is a little bit more lighthearted, luckily, is, of course, the new iPhone announcement. So the comment someone sent this with was the dynamic island reveal. Everybody talking about how it's the best UI they've ever seen. What does UX do about ideas, especially ideas that seem good on the surface, like making use of a constraint on a device? Do we iterate and test them? Clap back with existing research? What if the idea is great for the user? Does UX lose respect? What if the idea is awful, but the team wants to go forward with it? Lots of LinkedIn posts on this. Didn't want to call anybody out, but here's one. Okay, so we're going to go to that one. But at first, I saw something funny in this question. And I don't know if you're seeing it too, but I saw, what if the idea is great for the user? Does UX lose respect? And my thought was, wait a minute, if the idea is great for the user and we've designed something well and it tests well and it solves the problem we originally set out to solve, why would UX lose respect? This sounds like a UX win. Now, I'm not saying Apple's dynamic island is good or bad. I'm just saying before we even take a look at that, why would UX lose respect? Is the person who's writing to me assuming that dynamic island is a bad idea? And that if UX fights against it, but it turns out to be good for the user, then UX loses respect? I'll fight against an idea until it's proven to be good in usability testing or something like that. If I don't like an idea, I don't try to block it. I say, look, I'm not sure this is the right way for us to go, but if everybody's on fire about trying it, let's prototype it up and see what we learn. So first of all, don't call something dead unless you're pretty sure it's dead, because it could just be your opinion, and it's okay for you to have an opinion, but, if something is great for users, like for example, take the iPhone. The entire iPhone. I dislike iPhones. I really do. I'm an Android person. I've been an Android person since 2009. Before that, I was Windows Mobile. Before that, I was Palm Phone. So I am a not iPhone person at all. I don't like iPhones. So it wouldn't make sense for me to be like, oh, well, this iPhone idea is stupid, and no, this is terrible, and then find out, well, users like this thing. Half the world likes the iPhone. So it doesn't make sense for us to get too carried away with some of our own opinions and preferences, because you are not the user. So even when I don't like an idea, even if I don't like a proposed solution, if other people around me feel that excited about it, I'm not going to block it. Let's test it. Maybe there's even a piece of that idea that's worth keeping, even if it's not the whole idea. So remember to be more open about this. But let's take a look at what this is saying here. Apple just announced the new iPhone Pro. It has one of the best UI elements I've ever seen with the most Apple-y name ever, Dynamic Island. It's absolutely brilliant to turn the new front camera notch into part of the user experience. What do you think? So let's run the video, which is 13 seconds long, and it shows that the message notifications section is a black rounded rectangle that kind of hides where your camera is. The camera's there, but you don't see it as much because it's on a black background, whereas like mine right now happens to be on a white background, so you can see there is a camera in the top middle of my screen. So funny enough, I have the Samsung S21 Ultra, last year's Samsung flagship, and it actually does a little bit of this. I killed another bug. If you've been watching the channel the last couple of days, you know for some reason my desk is attracting tiny like fruit flies. I don't know why. I don't have food here. Got it. But more to kill. So my Samsung S21 Ultra actually does something similar to this, though I've actually changed the setting. But I changed the setting so that when my notifications come in, they're larger previews rather than like these smaller little blurbs. Like, let's run this again. So that's a larger preview. That's a small guy. So, kind of small. Small became large. Small became large, small became large. Yeah, so I've got mine set to large all the time. And so, but Samsung's, it has something a little bit similar to this. So ultimately, what's my personal opinion on this? Because ultimately, if it works for people and people like it, that's great. I saw a few people concerned about the accessibility of this. Sure, I'm always concerned about accessibility of this, but again, I don't have an iPhone. I don't know anything about Dynamic Island, so it's too early for me to say this is good or bad for accessibility, and I rely on people with accessibility issues to tell me if this is better or worse. And probably in this case, it might be people with visual issues because this is, looks like everything's on black, whereas like all my notifications are on white. That's just the way I've said it, but so I don't know. I think it's a little bit strange. So basically, when we think about phone notifications, we just think of them as phone notifications. One thing that was strange to me was Apple drawing attention to this, because they could have just said, hey, we came up with this way to show your notifications so that it kind of hides where the camera is. Yay, everybody would have been very happy. Wow, cool, notifications, whatever. But to give it a name and treat it like it's some sort of amazing thing, that part was a little weird to me. Like drawing it that much attention to it, that it had a name. I'm sure internally the project had a name, but to share that name externally seemed weird to me. Like, like, are people going to say that? Like, oh, my Dynamic Island just went off. Should you see a doctor? Ask your doctor if Dynamic Island is right for you. Iton says, that sounds like something a marketing department did. Yeah, like, I'm not sure. Like, if you just wanted to say, hey, Apple's got the next great thing in phone notifications, you could have just called them notifications. This doesn't need a name. So I think, I guess my critical thinking question, and I didn't watch the announcement. Pier Mario did, but he's not here. My question is, everyone's talking about the Dynamic Island today. Was nothing else exciting announced by Apple? That's what we're talking about? We're talking about notifications have a neat new shape and they're more animated, which might be bad for accessibility. That's all everybody's talking about. Is that really all Apple announced? Someone help me out here. Did Apple announce anything? Lovro says, it's kind of weird that they turned something bad into something good. They've just masked the problem and the notch is still there. Yeah, right, exactly. Like, my notch is still here. If I open a dark colored app, I won't see it. Like, not Dropbox. Yeah. Like, here's my internet speed meter where I check how fast my stuff is going. You probably can't see it, but I'm very small. But yeah, it's an app with a dark background. So, ooh, I don't see the camera so much. Did Apple really not announce anything else? That we're all talking about the notifications now have a black background? Like, it makes me think that it's like, oh crap, we're not really announcing much this year. It's the same, it's a phone, and it's gonna be really expensive, and it kind of does all the same things. We better like turn this into a thing. I don't get it. Maybe let's see some of the comments. Oh, I love this. It's an innovation. No, it's an evolution. Can we talk about this, everybody? Innovation is something new that people have never seen before. We've all seen notifications before. We've seen notifications come in different shapes and sizes. This is not an innovation. This is an evolution. This is notifications evolved. The very first notification was an innovation. This is notifications evolved. Faye says maybe it's because so many people were complaining about the notch. Yeah, I don't know. That's possible, but they technically haven't solved it. They just hid it. Oh, here's the person who has to say, Android couldn't think of this. Because Android didn't care. Like, I have to tell you, when I look at my phone, I'm not thinking about this. You know, this is, I don't know how many people have this problem. I don't know how many people are using their email, watching a video, doing whatever, and going, oh, God, if only this camera had a black rounded rectangle around it. Or, if, oh, this is just bothering me. Everybody's blown away by this, but like to me, it solves a problem I didn't have. I guess, you know, I would love to see the research that says this is such a problem, we have to fix it, but not with hardware. We have to fix it by hiding it. I don't know. I don't get it, but I'm not an Apple fan. So, I mean, you know, if you're looking for me to go like, oh my God, this is the best UI I've ever seen, it's not. Is it an interesting solution to a problem? Sure. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Give me 1 second. What's going on? No, come inside, please. Stay home. Stay home. Stay home. No. What's going on? What? What? I'm going to put you on the show. You're going to come on the show now. You ready? You're going to be my guest. Ready? Come on. Oh, I got you. All right. Oh, hello. Oh, you don't smell that good. What have you been doing? You are smelly. You're a smelly girl. Well, I'm mad at you too. Why are you so smelly? All right, let's try to get back to the show. Hello. Oh, come on, sit nicely. Oh, well, I'm not happy about it either. All right, everybody. I think that's practicing critical thinking. Special guest star Olivia the dog. You're gonna come on the show. It's a threat around here. She hates being on camera. All right, let's get the microphone pointed back at us. Doggy. Okay, let's have some hugs. Are you feeling better? Okay, good. Okay. You smell pretty bad. Did you roll on something today? Did you eat something disgusting? Well, I know, disgusting is judgmental. Anyway, this is Olivia. She is one of our many dogs that you can follow on Instagram. So anyway, thanks to everybody for joining and sending in lots of interesting things. Remember that you can send things in to deltacx.com/links. We do this every Friday. Please do subscribe and tell some friends about the show. I need all the help I can get because I am still shadow banned and I'm not young and pretty enough for YouTube to be recommending my videos out there. She looks so displeased. She is. I'm very grumpy. I'm super grumpy. I don't like this at all. Are you going to have a better night and be very sweet? Can I get a boop? Boop. Boop. No, not happy. Okay. That's where Pizzolo gets the side eye. Yeah, this is Pizzolo's mom. I gave birth to Pizzolo and Diana and Teseo and 4 other puppies who are living somewhere else. All right, good friend. You want to go down? Bye. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining, especially with our surprise guest star, Olivia. I will see everybody. Now, I've got nothing for the Monday show, so if anybody wants to send something for Think Out Loud, send it over through deltacx.com/links. Otherwise, I've got nothing to talk about on Monday, and I'll have to cancel the show. But otherwise, I hope to see everybody next week on something. Have a super weekend. I'll be doing my Transforming Toward Customer Centricity workshop. I think about 10 of you are signed up, so I look forward to seeing people there. And other than that, be well and be safe. Bye, everybody. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are